everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you another page that I made in my new Arteza watercolor journal. Um, Over in the Art Joy of Sharing Facebook group, we are doing a theme all month, and we're going to do it again next month, called #Watercolor Workout. And this is basically just encouraging you to work in water-soluble medium and then to post whatever you make, whether it's pages, whether it's tags, whether it's whatever you make, a canvas, painting. I guess it wouldn't be a canvas because it would be on watercolor paper, duh. But you know what I'm saying, something larger. If you're working in water soluble medium, we'd love to see your art and have you share it in the Art Joy of Sharing Facebook group. Also, this week on our live stream show, which is every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, we did watercolor workout. And so I have all this footage from before the show when I was recording, during the show, and then after the show when I was still recording while I was talking to Peg to show you these different pages that I made in my watercolor journal. This journal has 110-pound watercolor cold press paper. It's got 74 pages and the size is roughly 5 by 8. It's a great little journal, and it's bound in linen. I think it's cute. So I had made some sketches in preparation for the live show so that I would have something to paint during the show. And I did sketches that are inspired by other artists that I like. I like this whimsical style, and I follow a few artists. And this particular style that I am inspired by, it's not exactly like it because obviously when you do something with your hand, it comes out different than the thing that you're inspired by. But it's similar, and you can probably recognize it if you've been around for a while. This is one of the cute little birds. This one's an owl that Tamara LePorte from willowing.org makes. And so that's what inspired my little owl. I was just flipping through my Pinterest. On Pinterest, I have a board called For Inspiration. And when I see something I like, I just pin it. And then I needed some ideas for something to paint in my watercolor journal, and I just flipped through the little inspiration, and I thought, oh, that's cute. I should make a bird. Oh, I'll make this bird, and that's what I did. So the sketches are done in water-soluble graphite. I used the Stabilo ALL gray pencil. You can see it there on the right. It's the red one next to my brushes. And then I'm using my new collection of all different types of tube watercolors that I got recently and put them in half pans, which this tin, I'll link it below. The tin comes empty and it has all the little pans with it. And then I also can order extra pans. I can put the tube watercolors in there, let them dry, and then I have another little tiny palette, which I'm not showing that right now. That's only got 12 little slots. And I can take these little half pans out and put them in the slots and take my favorite palette with me in this small travel tin. And then this little journal and a couple water brushes and a little fold-up cup. And I'll be prepared to go anywhere. A pencil and eraser, I guess I would need. But yeah, I could work at the doctor's office or at the chemo place or whatever in this little journal. It's kind of my idea for something that's easy to take with me. And so I'm using all these different colors in these two different palettes that are that type of more expensive, highly pigmented watercolor, different than I've ever used in the past because I've only had my koi travel kit, and I have other water soluble media. You don't have to use these expensive watercolors. I'm just telling you what I'm using, not that you have to. You could use watercolor pencils. You could use gelatos. You could use inks. you know, like inks in brush pens, inks in anything that's water soluble you can use as a watercolor. So definitely you don't have to have this. You can use whatever you've got. You could if you can go to the dollar store and get watercolors. The watercolors that I'm using, however, are intense colors. So if you're using a watercolor from the dollar store, they're very light and pale colored, and you have to put a lot of layers on to get any intensity. So that's just the difference between, you know, just like every other thing, arts, all kinds of art supplies, all kinds of everything. The more you spend, the better result you get. It's just the way it is. In almost all cases, there are things that's not true. Like, you know, do are you happier with a Birkin bag than you are with the canvas bag from Walmart? You know, I don't know. There are things that I think are designer and therefore overpriced. Then in art supplies too. You know, if the designer adds their name to the product, it could be overpriced. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the best thing ever, but sometimes I think they're overpriced. So I've got everything swatched, so I know what colors. This is the first thing you should do, whatever product you get, is you should make a swatch to see what you've got so that you have some type of reference to look at. And I made a little piece of watercolor card that could fit exactly in this little tin that I ordered. And then I put all the swatches in the place that they are. And heaven forbid I turn it upside down, I'll be in trouble. And I labeled it by the colors as well as the um, brand, because I'm kind of trying out to find out, you know, if I really want to get into watercolor and I want some more professional grade watercolors, what brand do I like? Peg would say Daniel Smith. She's in love with Daniel Smith. But some of these other ones I thought were really great too. So um, I don't know. They all have their different properties. The graham ones that I have at the top actually have honey in them, I found out, as a binder. Honey instead of gum arabic or something, which it's Graham brand. I have like 5 colors of that. I thought that was interesting. So I'm just going along painting, trying to make my bird fairly brightly colored and whimsical looking, because I think it's just the way it should be. The the paint that I used for the crown, that kind of copper color, is actually a shimmery paint. I think it's called, um, I don't know, there's a name for it, but anyway, it's a Daniel Smith, and it's called Autumn something, and it does have the mica in it to make it sparkly, which I think is kind of cool. Copper sparkly color. I do also have some gouache, which is a water soluble product that is metallics. I have somewhere around that I need to put in some type of a palette. I don't have them in a palette, so that's why I don't use them, because they're in tubes. You need, I really think you probably need to put them in a palette, or else you're just not going to use them, because then you got to get the thing out, and you got to open it, and you know, you know what I'm saying. So a color that I'm really in love with is this Daniel Smith um, Mayan blue. That's what I'm using right now. I also really like the Moon Glow and the Alizarin Crimson from Daniel Smith. So far in my experimentation, that's the colors I've thought were particularly exceptional. Um, oh, and then there's this one that's called, I think it's called kyanite or something like that, genuine, that has real gemstones in it. And there's actually an amethyst genuine too, and it has actual ground up gemstones in it, which is kind of cool. But that kind of green gold color that I'm using on the owl is, I believe it's the kyanite genuine, which I really like that color, the green gold color. I like that color in acrylic paint too, so it's not surprising that I would like it in watercolor. But anyway, I mean, I haven't experimented that much, so I don't have a huge amount of knowledge to impart. right now I'm going to use Wet and Wet, and I'm going to use that Amethyst Genuine Daniel Smith watercolor in a second here to make kind of a purple background. This has had time to dry. I let it dry and went over and worked on the other page and then came back. So at first this amethyst color comes out really light because I've got the water on the paper and I'm letting it float into the water on the paper, trying to keep it away from, trying to keep a little dam in between what I've painted previously and this so that they don't bleed together and change my colors. That's something that you kind of have to think about. Another thing you need to think about when you're watercoloring is leaving white. If there's a highlight place that you want to leave, with a lighter white, you're going to have to not put paint on it. Unlike acrylic, which is what I generally work in, a collage and acrylic, you can always go and put that titanium white on the top. Of course, there is white gouache, which is a water-soluble product. You can also use pens, which I will be doing. I like an illustrative style most often, and so for this drawing, I'll be going back and adding pen work when it's all dry. I don't always do that, but I almost always do it. You know me and my Posca pens, I can't help it. I just like lines around things. It's just who I am. So this amethyst genuine actually has a little bit of sparkle, and I don't think it's mica. I think it's the actual gemstones in it, which is pretty cool, I think. Strange way to use gemstones, but hey, you go, Daniel Smith. You do you. Whoever Daniel Smith is, I don't know. So I'm putting some on, then going back in and putting some more layers for darkness around. And I do end up adding a violet, which is a darker purple from a different brand in. Now that's a darker purple. Violet. Just around the owl to darken it up because the amethyst genuine was a little bit on the light side. Just wanted to give some shadow around the edges. I've discovered that I need lots of practice for watercolor. And so hashtag watercolor workout is probably a good theme for Art Joy of Sharing. I'll put a link to the Art Joy of Sharing Facebook group, and you can come and ask to join if you'd like to join us there. It is an art support group, and you can post your art there to share with others. You can ask questions. You can join our challenges and our themes. And there's also participating YouTube artists who make content for Art Joy of Sharing each month based on the themes that have been set up in advance. So there's lots going on there. It's a fun group, and it's Peg Robinson and I do that group together, and we have a supporting live stream channel. So yeah, Art Joy of Sharing. So I have to let this dry, and I think I do end up speeding it up. There we go. Speed it up a little bit with a heat tool just to get it dry quicker so that I can do my pen work. So now I have a black fine tip Posca pen. This is an acrylic paint pen. It's very opaque, so it writes over anything. And I did have some words written on there. Be kind to yourself. You are the only you. That's definitely something that Tamara LePorte would say. She talks about self-love and self-care a lot if you watch her videos. So I thought it was appropriate for this drawing that it was inspired by one of her whimsical animals that she draws. She mostly does whimsical portraits of females, but occasionally she does an animal in addition. She even went through a period of drawing bugs. So that was interesting. So I went over the lines with the pen, and then now I'm thickening them up to make them stand out more from the background, as well as making them look more stylized or graphic. something that you can always do with your writing. They all keep saying how important it is to put your own writing on your art journal pages. Ha! I say ha. But in this case, it works. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the pen work around the drawing. Whimsical, disconnected, not too fussy, not too precise. Just adding illustration lines around things like you do. And then, of course, I'll come back in with the white Posca pen because, like we were talking about earlier, I don't leave white. I color every single inch of space with color, and then I realize, oh, yeah, there should probably be some highlights on here, some white space left. So I generally do that after the fact. That's something I need to work on. White Posca pen works great, though. You can bring that white right back in with your very opaque white acrylic paint pen that's from Posca. You can also use other white pens. I just prefer Posca. I'm a big fan. Big fan. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. There'll be some close-ups of the project at the end. If you did enjoy it, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or a question below the video. I will get back to you within 24 hours usually, unless something happens, who knows. Also, you can pin this on Pinterest, share it on Facebook, share it with a friend of yours. All those things help people find my channel because, of course, on YouTube it's always an overwhelming volume of things that are there. And so when you do that, it helps me stand out from the crowd. So I appreciate that. Thanks very much for watching, and here comes your close-ups. Bye.